Yeah.
Yes.
You know what happened?
What happened?
I was trying to be good. I was trying to be the good producer, and I had the lullaby playing on the other computer so you both could hear it. And I was like, okay, cool. After the lullaby comes the yes. So I queued up the yes, and I had it muted until I remembered, oh, the Diamond Club singer's not on the lullaby, and it was muted. So just a little bit of a gap in between there, but
that's a fairly minor issue. It seems
yes,
just
man.
fine.
Yes, man. How's it going?
Yes.
How's it hanging? Hanging good?
Yes.
Very nice. Great show, everybody. You guys want to take a look at some show titles?
Sure. Yes.
Yes. All right. We're going to go to nightattack.showbot.tv and take a look at some of our top titles, including Christmas Day, December 24th from Supernova Girl. The Cogswell of the Opera. Jesus Christ, have you heard the Cogswell? Sexy Dance of Hot Biting.
The Babe Ruth Factory is pretty good.
BB Live was done during the Bush era, 2009 and onward. That's a little long.
January 1st, the day the globalists and George Soros took over the media. It's all documented on Infowars.com. January 2nd, the day the New York Times tried to restrict the rights of true patriots and Christmas.
That's Prime Minister Tony Blair is on the left. Of course, acting Prime Minister still is Tony Blair. Dammit.battle.net.
Yes.
Don't you know who I am, boss? Collectible.
Yeah.
Brian Rubwood. Brush Wouldn't.
And the septics arrived.
I like instant oversharing. We had a couple of those come in. The Skeptic Septic, I also think is very funny. Al Capone.
Maybe the septic skeptic.
Oh, yeah. Switch him. The Real Septic Tango. That's the punchline of that one. Show that you give a shit.
I like the Babe Ruth Factory.
Yeah, I think that's
Or Nudist Meth Lab is pretty good.
Yes.
The Christmas Crisis.
Yes, man. Do you have a favorite?
Yes.
Oh, well, what is it? What's your favorite one? That's weird. That's weird. That doesn't sound like that's not one of the choices. I'm sorry. Just speak the name of the title that you like the best here. It doesn't sound like you have a favorite. Do you have a favorite?
Yes.
Okay, so you definitely do. Just tell us which of your favorites.
Say which one.
Just which one's the best.
Yes.
Yes, you're going to do it. Yes, he's about to do it. Everybody,
we're
yes,
ready.
He's going to do it.
We're ready. And go.
3, and ready.
Your favorite is.
Ready, answer. Go answer.
It's Brian's favorite.
It's Ryan's favorite? All right.
Yeah, no, I couldn't remember what it was. The Babe Ruth Factory.
Babe Ruth
Whatever
Factory.
The one that Brian. I was trying to indicate from the Yes Man. I was trying to indicate from the Yes Man that he agreed with Brian.
All right, we'll go with that. Thank you, Ren Igu, and everybody who submits show titles using the thing S command in the chat room. Hey, you guys talk for a little bit. I'm going to write an email.
You got it.
Brian,
Man.
are you prepared for a wild night?
I'm really not. I'm really tired and distracted by a number of concerns. But I guess taking her easy for the rest of us isn't on the menu. I suppose. So I'm gonna muscle up. Gonna score some cocaine, and then I'm gonna use that cocaine to sell it so I could get some meth. And then I'll take that meth, and then I'll start a meth factory and use all the money and hire a masseuse who's on duty all the time. And the masseuse will be rubbing my back while she feeds me cocaine and gives me lots of meth because it's a pain. And then I'll walk into Ice Cream Social and say, hello, I'm glad to be on your podcast. I'm here, present, and ready to be funny.
You've got a meth masseuse, yeah. You've got a meth masseuse.
Do, 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 do.
Such
a meth masseuse.
Oh no,
That sweet masseuse who's on meth.
CNC Music Factory, sneaky, one of the most easily parodyable, like always funny, like bands.
Pretty sure we were just doing Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, but that's fine.
I mean, sure, but also those songs too.
We forgot the Bit Boss. Oh no, DJ Fission. I'm sorry. And Jackie Hearn and MBAXA. Sorry, we forgot to shout you out.
Shit. Yeah, fuck. Well, at least we shouted them out during the show. Also, DJ Fission, do us all a favor and don't fucking blow away the entire competition 5 minutes into the show. You can slow play it a little bit. It's fine. I love you, Craig. So,
did you know that people gamble here in Las Vegas?
What?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They love it, man. They get in there and they're like, hey, money's my game, and so's whatever's in front of me. I'm gonna win my money playing that. But you like gambling. You like gambling in Vegas. Like you like sitting down at a table and playing the games of chance.
Can you? What was it? I walked into the Orleans and I just remembered it was in this hotel. I want to say in the last year or so. I cannot remember why we were here. That I made a game of pissing off everyone at the table for your amusement.
Scoop Fest last year.
It was Scoop Fest. Okay, so this is where we stayed.
We were staying in the Orleans. It was Sunday afternoon after the convention, but we all were still there. Or maybe we were about to head to the place or whatever.
The show proper, yeah.
And we had been kind of drinking a little bit, but you were going to go up for a nap or something. But we had like one burnout, like a situation where all we did was annoy literally everybody at the table. And then the punchline was the very annoyed with me old lady next to me found the prescription drugs, the prescription painkillers that had fallen out of my jacket to reveal that like we were indeed just really fucked up. Like there's just no way that you can be like super annoying to everybody and then have like your prescription pill bottle fall out of your pocket and be like, oh, boys will be boys. Like it just has to be like a freeze frame and us putting our hands to the air.
That's so funny because that's not the way I remember it as the punch out. What I remember is increasingly doing whatever the worst possible move was in the game of blackjack and continuing to win. And every time something happened, like doubling down on the dumbest
12s.
shit and so on.
Yes.
And then
no, that was all that built it up was
right. But specifically when finally the bill came due and I got down to, I'm like, well, I guess I'll put my last $20 in and we're going to do this. Or I had $20 on there and then it was like, well, seems like the worst thing I could do is double down on that. And at this point it was like fucking 19 and I'm doubling down on it. I put down another 20 and then to nobody's surprise, I buzzed. And then in that pregnant pause, I turned to Justin and said, hey, can you spot me $20? like that to me was the punch out of the whole thing.
Yes,
prescription pain pills also did make a cameo.
Yeah, the good news is all of that happened. So everyone can pick and choose their favorite moment, but we were definitely hilarious assholes to a bunch of elderly people who were not amused.
Yeah.
Fuck them. Fuck them.
The vibe I got was like this. Could you stop treating money like it's garbage? This is Vegas. like that was the confusing electric part.
No, they were like those like that was my six you got while you were hitting for no fucking reason, like, or like you should have taken that 7 because you should have hit instead of staying like a jackass. Like it was more that we were like disrespecting the flow of the table because people get really fucking
of
tight.
the game.
Like in this random number generator, people get really fucking upset that you're fucking with the random numbers that are coming out.
Yeah, that was a good time. I think that might have been the best single player game of Night Attack I've ever played. Just performing for an audience of one and to the open hostility of everyone else around.
I will say, I genuinely don't like playing table games unless I'm with like you guys. You guys are pretty much the only people because I just know it's its own fun thing, and also it's like I am kind of allergic to Vegas blackjack asshole. Like there's very few people I like less on the planet than that was my 6. Way to fucking misplay, dick. Like I hate that person so much, but I know that if me and you are together, we'll be able to cow him into silence. Or if he wants to be a bitch about it, we're going to have our own fun picking apart his bitchiness because we would rather spend $100 watching him squirm until he leaves the table than make any money.
There was some article talking about griefing as an institution and specifically calling out the Something Awful forums. And they're like, oh, you don't understand. You guys are playing EVE Online. They're playing somethingawful.com. And I feel like that's what we tend to do, where it's like we're sitting down and we're going to hand each of us will $100 knowing this money is hereby spent. And the real gamble is the friends we won't make along the way. like that I don't know, it seems so silly.
But even then, like when I was when Bryce and I were up until God knows
like 2 a.m.
how
or
long.
some shit.
Yeah, just we were up until a ridiculous hour in the morning with like, you know, some random drug dealer who was the only other person playing at the table. But that was also like really fun. For whatever reason, you guys are like the only people that I actually like playing blackjack with. Otherwise, I always feel like I'm just kind of being an idiot wasting money.
Yeah.
I'd rather.
Because if you're at a table with someone else and they clearly know more than you, and they give you the condescending like, you know what you just did there, and like, fuck off, dude. Let me play the game.
Yeah,
that's what I want to say.
Because
you know what I just did is deny your God
I made
right
a
to your
choice.
face. I bet this blasphemy hurts you pretty bad.
And also, it's like
your
hey,
fucking worshipped false idol that you're gonna fucking break out of your steel mill job because of an epic run. I'm calling you a liar, and I'm saying your God doesn't exist right here to your face. Fuck you. How's that?
Yeah. But you don't want to say that because fucking.
I mean, you say it between the lines. Actually, you say exactly that, but it's pronounced locally as.
Yeah.
Maybe I should double down.
Well, and that's the other thing is like, I could either play smart and play really slow, or I can play and you can get to your turn faster and I can lose money, whatever. But like,
here's something we should do.
Pass.
At Scoop Fest this year, we should have one night of Crap Fest. Where we just get everybody bring a nice outfit.
Shit show.
We all get dressed up real nice, and we just dominate a craps table, and just like yell and scream.
Flash mob. Basically, we flash mob a craps table, and we crowd out everyone else. Oh shit! What's the fucking narrative? Like, we all know we're gonna lose all of our money, but okay, imagine this. Okay, flash mob at a craps table, fucking dressed up. Everybody's going to gamble. We all know we're going to lose our money, but we're going to do something that's just going to break the brains of the croupiers and all those folks. Like, what if instead of cheering everybody was like, huh, I guess. like we're all 1990s grunge hipsters. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Classic. This guy.
I mean, winner.
Is
Yeah,
that
I guess.
trinked out
Yeah,
Charlie Sheen?
I'll back the line.
What if every time somebody won, they covered their face and they're like, oh God. and then muttered under their breath, so fucking embarrassing. I can't believe it. Jesus Christ.
What if every time somebody won, we raised our hand and said, "Praise Jesus," and we just like started falling on the floor like a snake revival.
I mean, that's pretty close to what CJ and I pioneered with the Hail Minoku bit. Like we could play that game, but I feel like if we're gonna have 12 of our own show up, like this fucking needs to be our heist of surreal performance art while spending money.
We could really
to
just be around a
for
craps
an hour
table
straight. We're gonna end up spending like over $1,000 between all of us because statistically we'll lose. But our goal is to leave these people just broken.
I feel like we don't need to psychologically break the croupier, but we could literally just all be around the table and be calling out all of these things and have all of us be like in synchronicity doing them, and it would be maybe the most fun anybody could ever have in Vegas.
Okay, all right. So we have to figure out what that would look like.
No,
we don't have to do it right now. We have
pick
time.
One night, everybody brings one good outfit to Scoop Fest, and then one night we say what that is, and we'll say it closer to the day. And
Hold
we
on,
just say,
what
look,
if-
there's
wait.
this table at the Orleans. We're all meeting down there, and we're gonna wait out all the fucking normies because we're gonna be really loud and annoying.
I have an idea. Here's a pitch.
Go.
There's no convention in town during Scoop Fest, and yet a bunch of cosplayers show up in their best fucking cosplay outfits.
Okay,
Bill
I think
Duran.
that's a little bit much though.
Okay, Bill Duran showing up, and then everybody shouting out catchphrases from their various properties, where it's just like, now that's Sabak, as dressed as Han Solo. So somebody else saying,
Whoa. Now we're getting somewhere. Everyone just brings a nice suit or dress, right? But we get one little cheap prop, be it like 3D glasses or something like that, and we just make up a thing that we're cosplaying. And we just like, when they're like, why are you all wearing 3D glasses? Oh, we're cosplaying Infinitron. Have you ever seen Infinitron?
You didn't see this Doctor Who episode? This is the one where they all wear the fucking Three Stooges.
So we can't do that because that is a Doctor Who bit. But it's like,
wait.
What if we all cosplayed as famous authors? So like
Wait.
one of us went as R.L. Stein, one of us dressed up as Ernie Klein, one of us dressed up as Patrick Rothfuss, one of us dressed up as George R.R. Martin.
okay,
and
so
then,
the
And
opposite
listen,
be dressing up.
half of those people
Literally
no one
just
knows
jeans and a t-shirt for all of them.
I'm just saying like what if the
It's OffCon.
Othcon.
but like
the
imagine,
only convention for and by people cosplaying as authors.
I feel like imagine the the number one Reddit post the next day. Like, I'm pretty sure all my favorite authors were playing craps last night, and then the photo
I will say this. If we do that, I will come down and fucking Borat style just be R.L. Stein playing craps for however long we're playing craps. I'll put the chocolate chip on my fucking forehead and play craps for an hour.
there's something there. Maybe, man. What's more obscure than authors?
Well, it's got to be something visual, right? Like, because I think some people know who some authors look like.
Easy. Like we're not
Easy
necessarily
to.
like, we need the thing that the most people will do so we can have the whole table.
All right, here we go. Famous directors. Somebody shows up as Penny Marshall. Somebody shows up as Akira Kurosawa. Somebody shows up as Francis Ford Coppola. Somebody shows up as George Lucas. Somebody shows up as J.J. Abrams.
No.
Somebody-
Here, you just come as you are, and you say you're director. So we keep saying like, oh, this is a Jimmy Schmimmy. He directed all those great silent movies from the mid '90s.
And he was great on The West Wing.
Yeah. I mean, the
all
idea
dress
is
up.
That would
as
be a
our
fun-
favorite.
That would be like a
if
fun.
we're gaslighting. If we want to
Yeah.
gaslight the croupier, we can gaslight the croupier with lies.
Yeah, like you
Wait
just
a minute,
say
hold on.
that oh hey, this is my friend JJ. She's really great at movies and craps.
All of us show up dressed up as Disney executives and casually talk about our projected projects coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about, man, it was great when we fired James Gunn.
We hate that guy and Dave Bautista too.
More like Guardians Volume P. Fuck you, Gunn.
All right, try
So
this on for
options.
size.
Options. Oh,
We do the Disney executive thing. We talk about all the projects coming up, but they're all like disastrously bad ideas. And to make it a little more fun, we short Disney stock shortly before we do it. Also, we have people casually catch what looks like, unplanned video of it and leak it to various online sites. Then, are you feeling me here?
Cash in.
That's what I'm
Cha-ching.
saying. That's what I'm saying. No.
I mean,
I like
I'm
the
in.
plan that requires us to be owning stock in Disney now before we.
Oh no! You
Short
don't
it?
have to own it to short it. You sell it before you even buy it.
Yeah.
I'm literally describing a conspiracy crime. Is what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
Also, the producers.
How about we all dress up as Don Mage of Domino's fame? Did you guys
we not
watch that?
talk about that? How did we not talk about that? That documentary is the reason why I went and got this haircut again.
Yeah, it was great. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on the Auntie Donna channel.
As amazing as that documentary, the Auntie Donna documentary about them going to pizza college was, and oh my God, is it fucking amazing? You need to go see it. My number one, pulling back the curtain a little bit, they emailed us the link when it went live, and my number one question was like, how were you able to do this? Like, this is insane that like no PR person at some point went up to you and said, can you please stop cursing in the face of our CEO?
It's great, and it's like 24 minutes here, so you get a lot in this. It's really fantastic.
No, go to the part with us.
Well, that was pretty early on. It's just,
I know, but that's what we want to see.
But that's the part we're in, though.
That's cool. Well, it's just you got to give me a second to do it then, my friend.
So now we apply.
Submit.
Submit. Great. So you've clicked it. I imagine in the next week or two we're going to open a Domino's. After some initial promising correspondence with Domino's Pizza Enterprises, they eventually fell quiet. We were crestfallen. All we wanted was our own pizza franchise. That's when our US-based friends, Night Attack, stepped in.
new venture for you guys is as a Domino's franchise owners.
Also, make sure to write the
Say
phrase.
they're doing sandwiches.
Make sure to write the phrase "Do a Domino's." Help Auntie Domina do a Domino's.
And gave us the helping hand we needed. And then, this happened.
Hi, Auntie Donna boys. It's Don May here. What we'd like to do is actually invite you up to Brisbane because I know that you have this passion for wanting to own a Domino's store. This is my invitation. Tickets will be on their way. We'll make contact with you, and I look forward to meeting you really soon.
That's so great.
Dude, I will say this. This is like a very uniquely like 2018 kind of moment where a corporation can be like, no, this is what we do now. We invite wild, untamed artists to come into our facility, shoot all their own footage, and we're not going to ask for really any kind of behavioral control or final cut on what they do. They're just going to do whatever the fuck they want, and they're going to like act like assholes throughout the entire experience. Like, and it's not like they're not disrespectful, but they're definitely in no way bowing down to fucking the Domino's man here.
I like the fact that there appeared to be 3 characters. There was Zach playing actual Zach, like just unbelievably giddy and excited that he's having this experience. And then very quickly, Mark becomes jealous Zach, like constantly competing for attention, constantly denied of it. And meanwhile, yeah. Oh my God, Don May does not look happy in that moment.
And by the way, he looks increasingly less happy throughout the entire thing.
Oh my God. And meanwhile, Broden is just there for the ice cream. Wild card. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, Broden definitely like eats on camera like 7 ice creams. He just keeps going back for the ice cream.
And Broden playing Tyler Durden. like it's amazing.
Oh yeah, no, and then there's a running gag with Zach, like very creepily, like gripping the hand of Don Meesh. And he just keeps making comments like, you love that strong handshake, don't you?
Oh, Zach is so adorable. Mark getting up and leaving, it's amazing.
There's a moment, actually, can you go back to when they first meet with him at the very beginning of the documentary, where they keep mentioning on camera the competitor to Domino's?
Oh, yeah, and shitting on them for being assholes to Domino's.
They keep bringing up the fact that, like, apparently there's a restaurant in Australia called Pizza Caper, or Pizza Capers, and they shit on Domino's in their ads.
Hi, Don.
But they,
Mark. How are you? Good, thanks, man.
This might be
You're quite tall in person, Don.
You don't look like you eat much pizza there, Mark.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I love it. I'm Italian.
Okay.
Grab a seat. Thank you. That'd be
so
great.
much. Thank you.
Okay, decided to talk to you about owning a franchise. Don May. Yeah. Don May. For a long time we thought your name was Don Meesh. I apologise for that.
Yeah, we're sorry
Don,
about that. That's okay.
Pause.
Who's
Like there's this moment that they acknowledge that they've never for even 1 second been offered a franchise and that they're $1 million a piece. But it's very clear that they're just gonna keep acting like they're on some kind of competition reality show where they're expecting to be given $1 million Domino's franchise.
no, there is this great moment where he's like, yeah, no, you guys would be expected to give the $1 million to us for the franchise, and they're like, or not. So let's just keep going. Like let's just this is how it goes. You might give us the money. Who knows?
And Domino's Australia CEO is Nick Knight. What the fuck? Who the fuck is Nick Knight and who the fuck are you?
So I'm the group CEO now. So these CEOs report to me, yeah. So Nick Knight is the Australian New Zealand CEO. Started as a wobble boarder when he was 13.
Rolf Harris.
No.
You know, like the guys who hold the pizza signs?
No.
It is.
The people
Yes.
who hold the signs.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
that guy.
Yeah, he was that guy.
Ralph Harris. No, not Ralph Harris. I'm so sorry, Don.
You're not supposed to say Rolf Harris.
No, we can't talk about Ralph Harris. Can't talk about Ralph Harris. Not the bat. The
Can we edit that
wobble
bit?
board. Cut the Ralph Harris. I want to ask one other question. Notice Pizza Caper's throwing a bit of shade your way in their
It's the best compliment,
in
isn't
their
it?
recent thing. Well, we were talking about this before, right? And I was
So
like,
pause it right now.
But yeah, you want to see Shields Up happening live mid drinking his Diet Pepsi. He hears the name of his number 1 competitor who's doing an aggressive campaign against them. Fucking Shields Up, plastic grin, engaged.
Here's the funniest thing. If a business reporter, an Australian business reporter, called Domino's and asked for the CEO of the group of that owns all the Domino's franchises to comment on the ads that were being listed for an article about the Pizza Wars, 100% they'd be like, no comment. We don't want to comment on their ads. And yet, for whatever reason, their social media team is like, sure, let's let these people in and like let's just let them record on their own cameras whatever the fuck they want throughout every stage of all of this. And here's Mark asking this question right to the fucking CEO's face. It is so funny to me.
In their recent thing, well, we were talking about this before, right? And I was like, you bastards. I saw that and I was like, you bastards, you bastards. But then someone said, it's free advertising for Domino's. Correct. And I'm like, that's true, it just made me think of Domino's. I saw that and I was like, fuck, I could go to Domino's. I saw that ad and I thought, after I saw that ad, I thought, fuck you, pizza cases. That's what I thought. That's me, Don. Okay. That's not Don's words, that's me. I thought, fuck you, pizza cases.
When I saw that ad, I went out and I bought 900 Domino's pizzas.
So the real purpose you're here.
Like at one point, apparently, and so they told us, apparently, like, nobody came over to them and said, stop cursing in front of the CEO. Like, I was expecting, as soon as I saw that, I was expecting for them to, like, not be doing that further or for it to be a bit of a chillier situation. No. Apparently there were no notes. It was just like, hey, you guys are having a good time and you're going to be here for our, you know, live streams that we're going to do with you guys that will apparently do better. Like, amazing. I don't know what the fuck goes on in Australia, but that place is no fucking rules and just right.
Not quite, but okay. Yeah. Okay,
Fuck you, Outback. Oh, God damn it.
Oh.
I mean, everybody keeps saying, yeah, it's Australia. Like, is it really like nobody gives a fuck at all about anything? It can't be like that, right? I mean, or else I'll move. I'll fucking leave right now.
Look, they're already outnumbered by kangaroos. They're losing the battle. They know they're in their end days. Have you seen the documentary Mad Max Fury Road? Like, fucking, it's serious.
There's so much sand out there and not nearly enough water.
Yeah. They're not in a good. They don't have the bandwidth to worry about the fuck budget.
I mean, how likely you think would it be for me and you to go to the CEO of Domino's and just start cursing into our own cameras and have them be like, ha ha ha, great job, guys. You're still going to do our live stream, right?
You probably couldn't do it the second time. You probably couldn't be the second people on the... Right?
I mean, no way the CEO of Domino's America has seen a fucking Auntie Donna pizza special.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Plus, we could also
I'm
maybe
thinking that American corporate culture is not on the same level that they're going to be like, oh, no, you're going to start like, we couldn't look in a camera and say, fuck Pizza Hut, right? Fuck Pizza Hut and Papa John's a racist. Like, we can't say that and then have them be like, oh, that's great, guys. Do you have everything? You want another take?
Yeah. I don't know. I think if you gave it a few years, given like how like hostile brand social media is getting.
All right, here we go. Everybody to Domino's corporate. Give
Wait, hold on.
There it is. Finally.
Forgot all about it.
Hey.
Gotta go?
I just realized I've not eaten all day.
Well, you should
but
go
I have had 3 Coors Lights.
Oh, well.
And while it is crisp, cool, and refreshing, the taste of the Rockies doesn't exactly fill a belly.
Yeah, well, go eat. We can
It's
hold down the
probably
fort.
because it's only 99 calories or less. That's why so many athletic, beautiful young people are always drinking the crisp, cool, refreshing taste of a Coors Light. It's the Rockies. If you like eating
you think
rocks.
if we went to go see the Coors Light CEO, we could say fuck Miller Light?
Oh,
yeah.
Definitely. 100%.
Well, probably not since
Everybody,
Miller bought
Light,
Coors.
At Coors Light, give Night Attack Coors. Let them taste the Rockies.
Also, Miller, Coors, same company.
Oh, then fuck Budweiser.
Yeah, fuck a Budweiser. Yeah, fuck a bud. You know what? That's a. Let's start an ambiguous campaign that you can't tell whether it's for or against Budweiser, where it's just like, look at this guy, fuck a bud, and then we just keep saying fuck a bud.
A Coors, fuck a bud.
Fuck a bud.
Make no. Make fuck a bud a hashtag.
Oh, okay. And here we go. Hashtag fuck a bud.
Bud.
3 exclamation points. Boom. Hashtag content. Hashtag content responsibly. Hashtag Coors. Tweet. We can do anything.
Also, just follow that up without context with consent matters. Just okay. I mean,
it does. I would let.
I mean, it does, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a true thing that we could just say. Consent matters. That's. I
just want to make for the record that this is my direct supervisor telling me to do this. And consent.
Yeah, but hey, man, it's also our real policy is that consent matters. All right.
Okay.
That's a fact. That's true.
Okay. There we go.
I mean, who's gonna deny that?
Nobody.
Not the Coors Corporation. Well, go eat. Go eat. We can hold down the fort.
I always hate being the one to leave the party early, but then I think about the fact there's a party and then another party after that I have to do, and how really all I want to do is.
We've all been there. You've got a podcast and then 2 parties.
Go. We're giving you permission. Go.
Go. It's fine.
Go eat.
All right. Love you. Bye, guys.
Bye, dude.
Bye.
There you go.
Hey, it's just going to go to the Subway downstairs anyway.
Yeah, right. Which, hey, whatever. Subway.
But it's a hell of a Subway.
Yeah,
great.
It's a pretty good Subway.
Fuck yeah, man.
I got a hankering. I got a hankering for a little show, Justin.
Oh, you want to do episode 3?
I kind of want to do episode 3. I got a topic.
All right.
I got another topic. All right. Well, here we go. Let's 3, 2. This is video games. With Tony Bicassi and Justin Robert Young. Hey everybody, welcome to Video Games. I'm Tony. I'm putting the Tony and Tony Bicassi. Joined as always by the jury and Justin Robert Young. Justin Robert Young.
Hey, what's up, man? I'm really glad we got renewed for episode 3.
Yeah, I'm glad we made it. Not a lot of podcasts make it to episode 3. You know, sometimes you get the pilot.
A lot of people don't realize is the average podcast lasts a half episode.
1/2 episode. So we've already beat it by 4 times.
So we're effectively a legend.
Yeah.
In history at this point.
We are Will Smith legend status.
Ha.
Woo! I got something I want to talk about today, Justin.
Yeah, what's up?
Have you seen? So there's a new development that came out with the game this past couple weeks. This No Man's Sky. You seen No Man's Sky? You heard No Man's Sky?
So here's what I know about No Man's Sky. It had the greatest demo of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's bingers were real stiff about it.
Yeah.
And then it came out, and everybody realized that the promise of an infinite universe that will always be different, that many thought would be infeasible with current technology, was indeed infeasible with current technology. Yeah. And for all the wonder that it provided on the surface, it was indeed a boring game. I then heard after that there was a patch that made it good, which I kind of feel like, or an expansion or a DLC or something. So I kind of feel like this is, from my detached vantage point, seems to be something that happens about 50% of the time. Like 25% of the time, the game is just good, and DLCs are good because you get to revisit a good game. 25% games are garbage, but now almost an increasing number of games are like farty but then can have one DLC released and it's, oh no, now it's something that everybody needs to play.
Yeah, I mean, there have been cases of DLCs and expansions making games better or being the better parts of these games. Like if you look at Destiny, when Destiny came out, and over time these expansions added new systems or made quality of life improvements. That's not uncommon, but I think for the disparity of sort of the general conversation around No Man's Sky, from this game that was maybe a little bit of a bill of goods to now 2 years later being something, oh, this is finally the dream, this is finally the thing that they sold us, the multiplayer, the base building, the freighters, third person mode, all this new stuff has like reinvigorated people. But if you ask me, Justin,
yeah,
I don't know. This new update is called No Man's Sky Next, and I feel like No Man's Sky Next doesn't make this that game. I still don't think that this is this game.
So the idea was that like the amazing, the best demo of all time still hasn't happened for you.
I don't think it has, and I wonder if this is so. I bought the game day one when it came out.
Yeah.
I was kind of resistant, and then it came out, and I kind of got swept up.
Also, fill me in on this. Who made this game? Was it somebody that had made a famous game before, or were they new players?
So they had made, I believe they made the action. I want to say they made the Action Hank games, but it's a small team. They're Hello Games. I'm gonna pull up their CV here just to make sure. Just make sure I get it right. But oh no, they made the Joe Danger games. These are like kind of runner type games, runner/trials type games. But they're a small team. They keep saying that they're
nobody that had done anything on this scale before.
No. And I think that the promise is still not here, and I'm trying to reconcile my not liking it compared to what I see, which is a lot of people getting back into the game or getting into the game for the first time and liking it. Which is that when I first played the game, I actually thought it was all right. You know, I don't think it was Han Solo the game, right? You're not charming people and making big decisions, but as a meditative game, as a kind of slower, relaxed paced game, and as someone who likes clicker games and games that are about numbers and stuff, I thought there was something charming about it, something interesting.
Yeah.
But over time, I probably spent at that point 30 or 40 hours with it over the course of a couple months before I realized, well, I'm making money. I'm finding ways to make money, and I'm getting my stuff improved. And you find glitches that let you do your upgrades really, really fast. But there's no story, or the story in this game is very wispy.
But that's kind of the challenge for a game that it promised, right? Which was supposed to be, like, as I understand it, fly to any planet. The planet's different. Mm-hmm. It's not just going to be the same bits rearranged. This is going to be dynamically generated on this, like, literally cosmic level. To the point where you are always going to be facing new challenges, always going to be facing new realities. And it's hard to make a story around that. Like, you can't make a story out of chaos.
Right.
Like, a story is, by its very nature, how do we make the most interesting situation out of blank? Mm-hmm. And you need to know what blank is for that to be a reality, right? Or at least to succeed on the highest level in the way that we know how conventional games are made.
And the idea, the very long story short on the story premise of No Man's Sky is, oh, you have awoken and everyone is they're calling you the traveler, and you're getting all these weird, very specific messages directed clearly towards you, and go to find the Atlas and go to the galactic core, the center of the universe. And there's a way to make that interesting, right? Like, I think there's a lot of mystique to that, of just like, well, you have the entire universe you need to chart. So you need to get a ship and make money and get materials and make your way over there, right? I think the promise of that can be really, really enticing to people who need a motivation to keep going, because it's not like there's especially at the time, there's not some deep social element to it. You know, you weren't saying, oh well, I just like going and being in that world and doing X, right? You need an arrow, and the arrow just happens to be the shiny thing in the sky. But very quickly, people beat No Man's Sky, and found that at the galactic core was nothing. Basically, you would get there, and the game would ask you, "You sure you want to go to the galactic core?" And you would say yes, and you would have this big floaty moment, and you would sort of it would shoot you back out through space, and you would start all over again. And there was no wrap up. There was not really any story beats, any reasoning, not a lot of explanation. Just hey, congrats, you're now in a new galaxy or something. And maybe, you know, somewhere down the line there is an answer for that. But the reports that had come out was like, hey, I've done this. I found a way to do this very quickly, and nothing really changes. You're kind of just doing the circle. And that can be fine too, right? I play a lot of clicker games. You have to make the experience of playing satisfying. But at some point you realize, okay, well, the planets look great, but each planet has, you know, the animals are pretty much nothing, right? Like some of them might be hostile, but they all sort of spawn randomly. The plant life can look very different, but it's all they're all
fucking plants.
Well,
kind of there.
They all slot into very specific roles, right? This is the plant that gives you carbon. This is the mineral that gives you ferrite. This is the mineral that gives you uranium. Like they all will look different, but they are all just different skins on the same general resources.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't take you very long to realize, okay, well, I'm just kind of going through the motions here, right?
So what you're saying with the new version, that yes, it improves some of the on-planet stuff, but it doesn't solve the biggest problem, which is the fact that there's no fucking story to this game.
That there's no story and that there's no motivation. Yeah.
I think, all right, so when you look at stories in general, and so a lot of people are saying, oh, it's like life. It's like real space exploration. Okay. But nobody really wants Life, the game.
Right.
Like, even the game called Life isn't fucking life, right? It is a simulation of a sped up timeline in an entertaining fashion. When you look at, like, even meditative things, you almost have to broadcast from the beginning that this is going to be a slow play with no ending, or else people will rebel against it. When you promise a future, when you promise, I mean, this is a lot of fucking actually really good advice about relationships too.
Yeah.
Storytelling as relationship advice. But it's like, if you are clear with expectations, your audience will react better to you than if you don't. And it sounds like what you're telling me is that No Man's Sky did a great job of showing you this great universe. And all you really need is a little bit of like, I'm Space Jesus and I need to find the way to space heaven.
Yeah. I need not conquest, but I need to know something's going to meet me at the finish line and say, congratulations, you actually did it. You can stop. I think that is...
Or like, I mean, just literally have part of what people are saying to you, like, oh no, like you might be the one to ascend to ascend to infinity. And then you'd be like, oh, what's infinity? And it's like, oh, it is the end of all things and yet the beginning of all things. And then when it turns out to just be the reset button, you're like, oh, cool. They've been setting me up for the idea that as the Smashing Pumpkins taught us, the end is the beginning is the end is the beginning is the end.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at, is that I spent about another 20 hours or so with No Man's Sky Next. And from launch to now, they have added quite a lot of things, right? They've done a lot of quality of life things to make using the menus faster, recharging stuff faster. They've added base building as a way of saying, okay, this is a planet that I like, or the planet that I'm going to keep a base at, and I can customize it however I'd like. But I think that it is hard to entice me with base building if the idea is travel all around the universe, because, oh, I still am going to be coming back or teleporting back to this one base regularly for some reason. I think that they haven't made the actual gameplay loop generous enough to warrant that. The other frustrating thing is, so I also tried playing the game a little bit about a year or so ago when the Atlas update came out, which was the previous large not DLC, but update pack came out. And what frustrated me with that last update was when I first started playing 1.0, there were ways of playing the game that I understood. Even if you exploit them, there's still things that you understand. So if you find, say, a ship, right? You have a ship. You have a ship with you, and if you want to upgrade that ship, you can either pay to buy another ship off of somebody, or you can find a crashed ship on a planet. And the way that you did not find crashed ships very often, unless you did a very specific way of doing things. But that crash ship would always be one slot better than the ship that you always had. So it would always be a modest reward generally. And now, as they've changed some of how the gameplay mechanics work, things like if you found a crash ship, you would not want to really do it because it is actually crashed. It's damaged. You have to pump so many like very specific minerals and materials into it that you can just waste a bunch of time doing that. On the other hand, with some of the crafting things and the base building stuff that they've added, there is a recipe that is in my 20 hours I probably spent the last 5 to 8 doing. There's a recipe where if you take chlorine and oxygen and you mix them together in a this this smelter sort of thing, you will actually create more chlorine. Basically, you put 1 chlorine in and you would get 6 chlorine out. And chlorine's a rather expensive mineral. And at that point, if you have enough money to invest in oxygen and you're able to get a little bit of chlorine, you can multiply that up relatively quickly to the point where I could spend an hour, not even an hour, maybe 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes and get 3, 4, 5 million units in-game dollars, about the price of a small spaceship.
Yeah.
And so you do that for a little while and you feel good because you made a lot of money, but then I've upgraded my ship, I upgraded my weapon, I made some stuff with the base, but I really don't know what I'm supposed to do, from there.
You want to know what? It kind of sounds like they kind of did half the job that Blizzard does really, really well, where it's like Blizzard's really, really good at making those in-game mechanics, but they're also the best storytellers next to Disney.
Yeah.
And it's like, even when people are pissed off about shit they're doing now, like they're pissed off because they've fallen so far in love with the last decade and a half of storytelling that now they feel this is contrary to the thing that they fell in love with before. And it's like, what you need is somebody saying, no, we're expanding this universe. We're fundamentally changing it every year and a half or 2 years, however long the fucking Blizzard expansions come out, or WoW expansions rather.
Yeah.
Like, cause that's really the standard for an open world game is WoW, right? Like for a persistent.
Sure. In terms of like,
but I guess that's shared, right? So that's different.
It is shared, but you're able to tell. You're telling a very grand story, but mostly through text, right? Like I can see WoW being that. It's kind of frustrating because so much of it would be very like wispy, right? Like, oh, I looked at the console and it looked back at me with the red eye and I felt a shiver down my spine. Like this very like flowery, interesting role playing almost text, because it was not really showing me very much of that. And so I would regularly not really care what it was trying to tell me because it wasn't for me. And so I wonder if in the next few weeks the discussion around No Man's Sky will also turn in a similar way of like, I've kind of found something that works for me. but I don't really have an ending.
Much of it is the sunk cost fallacy paying off, though, because I feel like there is an element of the game community that is desirous to have one of these irredeemable projects be redeemed. And that, I think, that from afar, that feels like the narrative on No Man's Sky. That it's like, hey, this game sucked nuts and it underdelivered. Its narrative is that it's a failure. Oh, wait, they released a thing and now it's good. And of course, that isn't always the whole story. Very often, a lot of people kind of really liked it, right? But it wasn't. Maybe it was unpopular as a whole, but there was an undercurrent of people who really appreciated the craftsmanship of the first part like you did. And now this is just the kind of hole in the sheet for now that the size of people that are playing the game is reduced compared to where it was at the beginning. Now the majority can say, yep, this is great. And that can leak out to the larger games populace.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that more people are finding it because I think that on a larger scale, there are people who can appreciate more and more and more of this game than I or you know, anybody who was into 1.0. But it's not quite for me, and it puts me in a weird sidelines in the conversation around the game, I think.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I feel about that. But also it reminded me about a month or so ago, I really tried to get into Grand Theft Auto Online. I don't know if I was
no. We were talking about this. Yeah, that you were really you had gotten seduced by some of the like the fringe communities of people that were doing like real
like role play stuff.
Role play stuff within this world, which is such a fascinating way to look at it.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing where I own the game, and so I thought, okay, well, you know, these people are playing this game. I remember liking this, and I really don't want to play the story mode a like fourth time through, so I'll try the online. I hear that the online stuff has evolved over the years, and I got in and was excited by the idea of it, but in the end, the thing that stopped me was I found a relatively safe way to make a certain amount of money over time. They have an import-export business where you steal and sell cars, and that is a relatively straightforward way to make a pretty good amount of money over a set amount of time.
Yeah.
And they try to find ways to mix it up, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to tell me I can be some big crime boss in the game, well, I don't see an end point to that. I don't see like conquest in that.
No, it's like an actual life of crime. Like you're always just going to be doing a thing for a certain amount of money, but you get none of the visceral thrills of like spending it on cocaine and hookers.
Right. Like they try to give you stuff like that. Like, oh, you buy an apartment and it's got a bong in it, so you can hit the button and take a hit of weed, and your screen gets wavy for a few minutes. You know, or you can drink gin, and you drink enough, and you get wobbly for a few minutes. But yeah, it's not a world that you feel involved in.
That's not fun.
No. And on the writing side, I would not say GTA has smart writing. I think it has good action writing, you know. It has bombastic characters that put you into situations.
Oh, I mean, historically, the best GTA shit has just been ripped off from other movies.
Sure. And the problem with online is that they still try to give you story at various beats along the way. You know, one of the things that they added that they did not have for a long time were their version of raids or heists. You know, part of the system of the game is like, oh, you set up these big heists, these big long operations, and eventually you do the deed and you make a lot of money. And so they try to pepper story in around there, but that sort of thing is late to the game and a little disparate. So you kind of just have a guy saying, I know who you are, and I'm from the government, but you don't know me. And you certainly don't know me from the story, because this all takes place before the story mode. You certainly don't know me, so you're gonna break a guy out of prison, and then you do it, and it's like, okay. And it rolls off your back because you do that raid, any number of times and free the guy, and that's the thing. Or you're like interacting with characters from the story, and they're mostly not the main characters, so it's like, I'm Trevor, I'm the crazy guy, and I'm in your house now, and you're gonna do stuff for me because I need to be here and say enough words to make you go and do my drug business.
Yeah.
And
you're like, no, I'm playing the game where I do fucked up shit. That's fine. Like, this is like what I'm here to do. So I would rather I guess you would rather have more storytelling on the opposite end of the call to action to make it more interesting, because like they spend all of the like character on the like motivation, where they should spend it on the like complications as you go and make decisions and change and grow.
Yeah, right. It feels very much like a shell of storytelling, right? Like, you're in this place and there's a problem, so you're going to be the one who solves it. And then you go and then, oh shit, there's a thing. Cool. Thanks for doing that thing. It's a very like gaudy way to give nothings, these story nothing beats. It's And so I felt I coming to the end of my experience with No Man's Sky Next, I felt a little bit like GTA Online, where maybe it's a community thing or a multiplayer thing that
I think
missing
that's
out.
it. I think for GTA specifically, this is Second Life. I mean, this is like people like that really, really have a good time hanging out with each other, and they want to do these things, and that's the hook.
Sure.
Like I would guess that is the drive there.
Yeah, I mean, GTA certainly has a lot of systems for that, right? You have a very extensive clothing system and a facial system. Like, you can make a character that you feel invested in. There's a lot of, you can buy cars, and you can buy expensive cars, or, you can actually buy like a flying DeLorean, which kind of breaks the game a little bit if you have a car that can just fly and shoot. Also, it shoots rockets. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Fly. Hey, can I ask you a question?
Please go for it.
Because this actually drives into something that I have experience with.
Oh, sure.
I read a little bit about IGN had a bit of a kerfuffle.
Yeah. So I'm going to be honest, because someone was asking me about this before we went live on the stream. I only know the very broad strokes. Can you give me a little bit on what you know, and maybe I'll take
everything on video games, I only know what I have read on Twitter. Here's what I know. I read IGN's response to it. Apparently there was a review that seemed to bear the hallmarks of plagiarism. Now, I will stop there because I'm curious to know your thoughts as to kind of how big of a deal this is, how much of an issue it is in the games community. Oh, I guess that the dude was fired.
Yeah, they did part ways with him. Yeah. Yeah, they've got a statement here. The review itself was simply not acceptable. We've parted ways with the writer involved in the review and will be re-reviewing Dead Cells this week. So I think it's an interesting thing. I understand IGN's positioning here as a publisher of video games media, in that you still have to deal with plagiarism, and you still have to deal with making sure that what you're trying to introduce into the conversation is original. Like, that's the whole point of why you're there, is to
as 311 mandated. You've got to come original. You've got to come original.
And this is, I think it's important, and I think this is something we've talked a little bit about in terms of games press trying to become more personality focused, is that so much of games press is press release focused, trailer focused, right? Everyone gets the same press kit for a game, and unless you have unless you've had hands-on footage with it, you got to take something and slap it together so you can have your post on the hour.
I have had several
in a lot of
moments
cases
where I was in an editorial capacity, brought to my attention writing that was accused of plagiarism.
Okay. Writing that
and
you would have been responsible for?
Yeah, no, I was the editor. I was the boss. The boss's boss, right?
Yeah.
And twice that I can remember, people brought articles and brought the evidence, and having seen it a couple times and followed, these things happen in journalism quite a bit. So if you're following journalism, then these are the stories that you get used to. The one thing that you know very often is like, there's really no accidents when it comes to like the things that are actively accused of plagiarism. In general, it might be 9.99999. If you have crossed the threshold that you garner a plagiarism accusation, you've probably done it.
Very close. Yeah. And in the case of this, which was like a video review, which are usually scripted, there are a lot of points where you have to, that would be a lot of coincidences to be pre-planned out to say as similar of a script as the IGN editor did here, or the IGN reviewer.
Yeah.
So I understand.
Here's my question.
Sure. Yeah.
How much do you give a fuck about that as a video review? Like, where is your threshold for journalism within video games? Because I'm going to say this.
Sure.
In general. Well, actually, no. Here, I'll let you answer that question, and then I'll give you my hot take.
So I think reviews are a very specific part of the game's press, right? You are saying as an outlet, this is our stance, or this is this person's stance on this game. It is, short of deep, hard, investigative journalism, is some of the most proprietary or bespoke elements of games press. This is you saying, I am taking a stand on this game. This is what it is. This is how I feel about it. And in a lot of cases, this is the number that I'm giving to it. And we've given that portion of games press a lot of power. You look at Metacritic, you look at the open version of Metacritic. This is a vertical of games press that is influencing the actual video game production side. As you hear about video game publishing contracts that will have bonuses tied to your Metacritic rating. This is very important stuff. And if we were talking about, here's the press release for the new season of The Walking Dead coming to AMC, who could give a fuck? But I think to not only steal someone else's script, but also to steal the script of a smaller venue, of a smaller channel as your own, I think either you are intentionally being deceptive as the writer.
No. Okay, yeah.
Or I think as a publisher, you are creating a situation where this, for some reason, had to happen.
So, yes, 100%. I don't think that anybody would agree that that's a cool thing to do.
Did that address your question?
Well, no. I think that if nothing else, you ripping off a smaller outlet is basically you just saying, hey, for real, you should just hire this guy that I ripped off, right? Because I'm bad and he's good, and either I'm overworked, but more likely, if you are in that situation, you are taking a lazy way out for one reason or another.
Right.
I guess here's my larger point.
Sure.
In general, this is somebody, again, who's detached. I find video game journalism to be among the most low-stakes version of entertainment journalism there is. And I know this for a fact because I used to blog about the Magic community. I know a little something about low-stakes fucking niche entertainment reporting. And I've always kind of looked at video games to be closer to that. Certainly worth more money. Certainly more people are interested, without a doubt. I'm not trying to make that point. but I'm saying it's closer to that than it would be, let's say, movies or television, something that is mass media. Now, this is my non-video game playing bias showing itself, and I'm sure before everybody rushes to say that video games make more money than literally every other form of entertainment on the planet, that maybe I should look at this in a different way. However, in our culture, and this is changing, but as it has been the majority of the time I've been alive, video games are still niche. They're a thing that happens within a confined element of our culture. So
they're not ubiquitous in the way that television and music and film are.
Sure. Does the New York Times have a video game reviewer?
Probably. I'll look that up, but I would probably say probably.
I mean, considering the fact that New York Times has a sports section and yet has, is oftentimes mocked within the journalism industry for having the shittiest understaffed sports section in the country, I would suspect that the law of averages would say that the video game writer would probably be lower on that totem pole.
To give some context clues, I looked up New York Times video games, and what came up was a 2011 review for Skyrim. And when I click on video games and the subheader, it just takes me to the arts section. So I would imagine that their funding for video game coverage is small.
They're going to buy a trend piece every fucking 7 years.
Yeah, editorials or some,
Yeah.
Sure.
So I guess here's my point. Even if this dude were to say, hey, look, there is an element of hegemony to all video game reviews to a certain extent, and maybe I unconsciously, after trying to gauge my opinion against other people's, wound up, unconsciously taking more than I should have from other people. And let's say in this example, you believed him.
Mm-hmm.
Would you really give a shit? Or is it just the fact that he was so fucking dirty about it?
I mean, I'd like to know a little more what you mean by stakes, or what would you possibly, not saying that you're asking me this, but what are the stakes? What would happen if we were past the tipping point and the stakes were inciting action? Are we talking about choosing, okay, well, I'm not following IGN anymore, I'm not following this guy anymore, or
no, listen, that dude has to go to the poop buffet and eat all of it because he got embarrassed on a large platform. That's just what happens. There is you sign the waiver when you walk into Thunderdome and understand that you trade a big platform for the idea that you can get embarrassed on a big platform if you fuck up. Yeah. I guess my point is I've always kind of assumed that even video game reviews are sort of I mean, I don't want to say disposable, but disposable.
Sure.
They're
there's a saturation.
Well, A, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
B, there's a reason why we're going to more of a personality model with a lot of these platforms, because they just blend in. I think this game was kind of good. The most, the most famous video game reviewers are either people whose writing is really good. Adam Sessler always comes to mind with that, where it's I don't give a shit about video games, but I know what an Adam Sessler review is because he has this kind of flowery prose and it he has a great delivery, and that's an art in and of itself. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's many other people for whom I'm not familiar with their work that are probably very popular because they do similar. Or you make your job being very, very mean, like a Jim Sterling or something like that, where it's I'm going to be a shit hunter who finds shit and then dismembers them and flays them in the public square while everybody claps along because you found a shit bag and exposed them. Mm-hmm. But for everything else, I don't even know what the fuck Dead Cells is. And I read 3 stories about this today. I don't know what that game is. I know that this motherfucker cheated on his homework.
Yeah.
Like, who really gave a fuck about the Dead Cells review? Which is probably what he thought when he's like, fuck it, I'll just rip this dude off.
I mean, that's a really good point. I don't quite know if I have an answer, because at the end of the day, I wasn't going to read IGN's review. I'm not a person who reads IGN, really. They are a go-to site for a lot of people, but, I know I personally, if there were not news stories about this, it would have gone completely under my radar.
Yeah. This is a story because Homeboy went to the poop buffet.
Yeah. So like there's definitely a narrative element to
fill the trays with poop
right.
that he had to eat.
Yeah. Excuse me, we need some more orange poop here in tray 2. And so I think at the end of this, I think if we look a week out, maybe IGN people have a reputation, think of it in a different light, in that, they just churn stuff out. But I think people already think of that of IGN. So maybe it is inconsequential that it happened. And I think, man, I mean, that's a really good point. They fired the guy. They fired him pretty quick.
No, I think editorially, again, having been in this situation, when somebody is accused of plagiarism, like, it's almost like 100%. Because in general, I think we give a lot of leeway to parallel thought. We give a lot of leeway to in reviews and stuff like that. Like, even more so, it's like, hey, look, did Waterworld disappoint? Yes. Based on its script and acting talent, it disappointed. And that's that. Like, you don't need to be like, oh shit, the LA Times ripped off the New York Times because they both said the Waterworld kind of sucked. Like, you have to do things that are very specific to garner that kind of charge.
I'm gonna say, if this is any indication of what may happen. So I pulled up, I Googled the IGN story, and one of the first articles was this rundown from The Verge. And I swear to fucking Christ, I cannot find the name of the man who made the IGN video.
I'm sure somebody.
There's a chance that it might be Philip Mewson, but okay. Like, halfway through this article, his name is mentioned once, which is...
it doesn't really matter. I mean, IGN's really the story there. IGN fucked up is the story. That should be the headline. The headline is IGN fucked up, and it doesn't matter that it's not the corporation IGN, that it's this writer, but that's why we care about it. Because if it were fucking Ding Dong McGirt's fucking video game reviews on YouTube, nobody would give a shit. It's the fact that it's IGN.
But if we're talking the long ramifications, it would be in a situation like this where IGN has said, you know what, that's right, this is plagiarism. Our editorial staff made a lapse, didn't catch it, didn't know, for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, this guy's name is going to be the lasting stink, or would be the lasting stink, given that...
I mean, that's the funniest thing, is that I feel like the fact that you can't even find that dude's name probably means that he'll get another job at some point, because his name doesn't have that stink on it. Like, nobody, like, if he starts doing stuff again, sure, somebody in the comments is going to be like, hey, fuck you, plagiarist. But if he wants to have a job in that field, he'll probably be able to get one.
Yeah, it's so weird. And
now, maybe not doing that same shit. Maybe he'll be writing more than being somebody like doing videos,
copy editing, or some sort of technical side.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I don't know how much money there is in it, or whether or not he'll be able to make a living doing it. But who knows? I mean, there's a million different things.
Well, and so many of these sites now, they want an all-in-one person. So even if he doesn't write, letter one of any script going forward, he's probably got video chops under him. He's probably got some sort of editorial chops.
I mean, he's coming out of a position that has done many, many people very well. I guess, this is where I'm going to get in trouble. Is like, I just don't see why the long knives come out for video game shit. And this is plagiarism. I'm not saying that this is fucking like, look, if you plagiarize some shit in a fucking highlights magazine, you're gonna get fucked. Like you just can't do that. It's the cardinal sin of journalism.
Goofus comes up with original content. Gallant steals from Highlights Junior.
You fucked it up.
Oh, did I get? Oh no. Yeah, I
don't know. I mean, I guess this gets me back to Gamergate. That I have no idea why the concept of, even if you're to take seriously the idea that like this is like about whether or not a reviewer fucked a developer and gave him a good review, like it's video games, dog. One person gave somebody a fucking good review because they had a relationship with them. Do you know how often this happens in literally every other fucking field? This has always been my grand mystification by not only Gamergate, but also just the passion and vitriol in fucking gaming writ large. Like, I don't get Gamergate based on their idea and their rationale. I totally get Gamergate just literally looking at fucking Jeff Kanata saying, oh, God of War is a really good game and I'm going to compare it to other really good games, and then him getting fucking like it becoming a viral tweet and having him being shit on by every corner of the internet because he dared compare an unreleased game that nobody had played to other fucking great games. And it's like, that to me, it's like I ran into Anthony Carboni at the fucking at SFO at the United Club, which is like the weirdest. Like, I don't know, is it a humble brag that Carboni and I were randomly at the United Club at the same time?
A little bit.
A little bit. Whatever. So I ran into each other and we got to talking, and I told him, I'm like, dude, I cover politics. I literally offer political opinions for a living. Like, although I can't remember when Obama was elected, but, which shows you how much worth they are. But I
2012,
would never in my life want to, even if I had a grand passion for video games, I would never want to write or have an opinion about video games because, like, the vitriol there is so insane compared to where I think like people in movies don't get that fucking pissed off. And like movie bitching has its own fucking like it almost birthed the internet, right? The first two things that people wanted to do on the internet were jerk off and fucking bitch about movies, as Kevin Smith once accurately said.
So I think we're talking about a few things before we get into this, right? You're talking about Gamergate, which is a paper masquerade over a long campaign to fight what was perceived to be a rise in feminism or progressiveness or quote unquote PC.
I mean, sure,
content.
but I guess here's my root is I just think that there are a lot of fucking angry people that are talking about video games, and it's like, so yes, it that bottle rocket without a stem goes wherever the fuck it wants to go. And if it goes into fragile masculinity and the idea that there's women empowerment that you're not comfortable with, or that games are changing, like we're seeing with the like comics and diversity people, I guess it never fails to mystify me that the less consequential the field, the sharper the knives are. And like video games happens to be in this place where it's really not consequential, but there's so many fucking people that like it's just the purge 24/7.
And we talked about this a little bit on a previous episode of this podcast about, video games is there's the membrane between creator and consumer is very small, you wouldn't have I don't think you would ever have the level of vitriol against Anita Sarkeesian or Zoe Quinn or any number of targets if they didn't have Twitter accounts that you could very easily find, or public information that you could very easily create a large and individually toothless, but a large scaled up mass to say, hey, this is a target and they're on the exact same website as all of us. By having the people so close to the metal like that, I think you get enough people saying we could just.
Can I challenge that though?
Okay.
Because I feel like there are fields that are gigantic and make as much money as video. Well, maybe not as much, but a lot of money, enough money that you would think that there would be a comparable ratio that don't find that. Like ebooks. Ebooks, literally, you fucking in 3 months by yourself can write an ebook and it could be successful. You cannot create a video game by yourself in that time, or it is highly unlikely. You would have to be somebody with extraordinary talent.
It's a very large time investment to do something like that, even on a very small scale. Sure.
Time, money, a coordination with other people usually. Like there's a lot more that goes into that. So it's like, I don't think that the average video game fan is very close to making a video game.
No, but I mean they're close to the creators in so far as they are sharing the same social
everybody,
spaces.
Everybody's close to the creators. Like ask Ryan Johnson how close fucking he is to everybody who wants to talk to him.
Sure, but I would also say that Ryan Johnson doesn't need to use Twitter to promote Star Wars.
But he does.
He does, but he doesn't need to because it's a Disney movie.
But so you're saying that is unique to video games?
I think the fact that social media has a very large stake when it comes to the creator side. If you are making an indie game, you are getting the word out every single way that you can, which includes Facebook and Twitter, which also just happen to be mediums for dog piles. I think there's similar things with like YouTube drama. You have to be on these social media platforms to get your word out, and you have to be invested and be vulnerable so that people can hear your message. And part of that means you have to put your neck out there in front of people who want to cause trouble, whether it's directed at you or not.
Do you think?
And I think that's bad. I think that sucks.
Do you think that video games is uniquely venomous?
No. I think if you look at things like there was a very similar movement in science and speculative fiction with Puppygate. I think you have a very similar situation where,
I mean, but even then they targeted the nebulas, right?
Was it just the nebulas? No, there was also the Junos.
Okay, right? So but they're brigading awards, right? Yeah. Fan votable awards. That seems to me to be like, certainly, look, it's annoying. It is certainly maybe reflective of larger ideas that we can agree are the same, but that seems different than the kind of unending harassment that some of the elements of Gamergate, the victims of Gamergate, have felt, or the vitriol that I seeps into my life when I have no interest in it. I feel like I've got general. I mean, if I'm going to pick the neighborhood I live on the internet, I live within driving distance of the science fiction, literary community and the video game community. Sure. I'm probably closer to the science fiction community, considering our friendship with Sigler and my friendship with Andrew Main and all that. Like, these are people for whom their livelihoods are determined by it. And yes, this is a conversation to be had, but it's not like swatting.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think they're at different scales, but I think the same ideas are there. The same ideas to squish out certain types of people from the conversation.
100%. I get, when I say venomous, I mean the action taken on it.
Yeah.
How far people go and how many people are taking it that far.
I mean, if the question is there anything at the same level as video games? I think the answer is no. I mean, the answer is definitely no.
Politics probably, but maybe, I think that
even in politics there's a membrane. How many members of Congress don't have social media accounts or only have Facebook pages that some intern runs? Like, I think the vitriol
all
is
kind of have something, but I'm sure how much they're on it is certainly different. Although that's changing.
Yeah, but at least now there is there's a membrane there between those two people.
I mean, only because they're old. I think Kuhan kind of puts it here that politics fucking matters, which I think Also, politics is, whether or not we want to admit it, a intentionally hyperbolic art. Like, there's a reason why when somebody's running against each other, they're like, this person wants to ruin the country. This person is the worst person on the planet. This person, their fucking wife hates them and they don't believe in Jesus and yada, yada, yada. And then at the end of it, when they're doing their acceptance speech, they're like, everybody, let's give a real big round of applause for a very good man who fought a very good fight, my opponent.
Right.
I think that person at the end is more like the real person. But like politics in general, the art of politics is hyperbole and elevating things to a larger level so people go vote because, as Kuhan said, politics fucking matters.
Sure.
I don't know how much video games fucking matter, and yet it is something that, like, the fucking knives come out so easily.
That's an interesting perspective in that video games don't matter as much as politics. I think that's a pretty easy blanket statement to make.
I'm always taking out the hard position.
This is a tough conversation. I feel like I don't know. I don't know what the cause is. I know we're not going to solve it. There was someone in the chat, Shiny Ood, who said video games are also worldwide, which I think it could be part of it in that you're dealing with many different cultures, a younger audience, compared to politics, where politics probably aims at an older voting bloc.
Well, but I guess it's like, so are movies, so are books. We don't see this with them.
Sure.
It's weird if we're saying, oh no, this industry matches up with the decisions that run the world.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the
passion. That passion is mismatched.
So let's go back to the question. What is the question that we're trying to tackle here? Why is video games specifically venomous?
Yes.
I think that's a very good question. I don't know why. I really don't. I think last time.
That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, we talked about this. I feel like we've talked about this every episode of video games, and so I'm glad to kind of keep trying to chip away at this. But I think at least some of my tent poles on this tend to be you are looking at young adolescent voices being given equal weight to any number of people online, like on Twitter. You have a very consumerism focused industry in that if you pay $60 to play a video game, pay $30 to play a video game, you're going to have opinions about it. And hey, it turns out you have 3 different ways probably that you can tell people about it. And if you are a type of person who wants to cause trouble, that means you have that many platforms to do it. So I think that's a lot of it, is that the low barrier to entry to create this venom and the shrunken membrane between creator and consumer and the scale of video games, just the mere, not even the dollar amount, but the near number of people around the world who can play and have opinions. I think those 3 things coalesce into about something approaching a perfect storm. You have a big base all around the world, probably young, and probably impressionable, who...
I kind of think there's either one or 2 sides that I want to call bullshit on that, though.
Okay.
The young argument. Because all I ever hear is like, this isn't a kid's game. This is something that, you shouldn't feel ashamed if you're playing video games through your adulthood. I totally believe that. I believe in that. Most of my friends play video games and they are my age, in their mid-30s. So yes, there will always be an element of that stuff that is for the kids, but I don't think that the larger problems are like, just amongst young kids. I think that there are deep-seated elements here that are there forever. I mean, like,
Sure.
that the most vitriolic voices in this are not 13-year-olds.
Well, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that these three things are the problems, but I think when you have a young, impressionable base who see people who are more experienced, more charismatic, and through their actions validating either certain views or certain actions, I think you have a base that is willing to at least follow these movements because they see it and they see the size of it and they think it's okay because I am relatively anonymous.
Kuzdra says it's definitely not the youngs. Baby boomers can be vitriolic as fuck. You're right.
Sure.
It ain't nobody in my family. I punch him.
But I think those are the people in high position, quote unquote higher positions of these movements, right? Like it's not 12-year-olds who are deciding the direction and targets of Gamergate. It's people who have access to grind and
I kind of even feel bad about bringing up Gamergate just because it's like it is the
Very
topic
specific.
that everybody wants to talk about. But I do think that it's beyond that to me. It is just like the level of anger that seems to roil eternally within that genre that fascinates me. There are two things that fascinate me that I will never really understand.
Sure.
Deep-seated animosity toward, or really just the debate, and you can say stands versus critics or however you want to define it, around Elon Musk and why people who play video games are so fucking angry all the time. Like those are the two things that I will never not be fascinated by because I'm just a Lego that does not plug into that, other Lego.
Okay. Do you mind if we switch topics just a little bit for a last sort of mini topic?
Yeah, we have to do it quick because I'm kind of fading. Here.
Okay. I ordered on the internet about a week or so ago a product called SXOS. Is there any chance you've heard about SXOS?
I've not. No.
So some people know that the Nintendo Switch, which just came out, is built on top of NVIDIA Tegra hardware, I believe. And a hardware design flaw of the Switch means that there's a very simple way to, when you're booting your Switch, get into a debug mode of Tegra hardware. So before the Nintendo software loads, the Tegra software can load and say, oh, hey, we haven't posted yet. What would you like to do? Which means that it is very easy because of a hardware design flaw, nothing that you can do software-wise, to load custom firmware onto your Switch.
Oh.
Yeah. And so SXOS is one of many offerings in terms of custom firmware on the Switch. And theirs is very interesting because they sell you two things. They sell you this little gizmo. It fits into the Joy-Con rail on the right side, and that reaches in the device, and it makes the connections that it's supposed to do this thing, and a dongle that includes SXOS, their operating system for the Switch. And it's fascinating because I had done piracy with the Nintendo 3DS before. I've done it with the PlayStation 2. Those are very interesting, usually analog methods, right? With the PlayStation, you get a key, and you slide the key into the tray, and you manually unlock it and pull it out because if you hit the button, it reads the disc. So you do it by yourself and you put the code. Or for the Nintendo DS, they make a cart that looks just like any other cart, but it has a slot for a micro SD card. So put that in, and that loads a thing.
Yeah.
And those are just, those are one and done products similar to the SXOS. You buy a physical bit and you buy a memory for it or CDs.
Yeah.
But I was struck because not only do you pay about $30 for this little bit and this little USB dongle is bits of hardware, but you also pay $20 for a license to the software. If you
So they are selling a license to their piracy software.
Right. If you are willing to make the bridge of the connection yourself, you can just pay $20 to get a version of their software, which I think is really weird. There hasn't been anything like that specifically, charging specifically
How
for
is
the
that
hardware.
legal? Or is it not?
I mean, how is this file? Like, the file, I don't know how it would be legal, is the way I look at it. In that,
Are they just looking to maximize their profits before everything comes crashing down?
well, the thing is that it's because this is a hardware flaw, and because there's no way to patch this out.
Go ahead and keep talking.
Okay, because this is a hardware flaw, and there's no way to patch this out via software. If you have a console that is vulnerable to this exploit, there's nothing you can patch out if you're Nintendo. People are still able to press this button and get in before any Nintendo software loads. So if you're of the mindset that, well, I own this piece of plastic and whatever I do before Nintendo software turns on is what I do, and you get to say that, oh, this is for homebrew, this is for X, Y, or Z. I don't know what Nintendo could do for you. Same way for hardware, right? A little plastic bit like this with some connectors. There's nothing illegal about that. You're not circumventing any software, right? If we're talking about like the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, you're not breaking any DRM. You are doing everything pre-boot, basically. When you get into the point of downloading software, cracking software, converting software, loading software, trying to download updates for software, then I think you get it just to shaky ground. But you really couldn't. I can't see on any sort of zoomed in level on any part of this what's actually illegal. It's why flash carts have always been a thing. It's why PlayStation and PlayStation Portable piracy was a thing, because you can shut down the hardware suppliers. You can go after that, but I don't see one bit that is illegal as a consumer, at least within this transaction, short of downloading stuff and actually stealing games. This bit is, you're just breaking your thing.
So, man, how do you feel morally about doing that?
Man, that's a very good question.
Mm.
I am happy to admit, when I was in high school and whatnot, I'd pirated games. We had a PlayStation 2 that we had a very large booklet of burned DVDs that we played of pirated games or foreign games. And is the world is Konami hurt because we stole or pirated copies of a Japanese music game? Probably not. Is someone hurt because we pirate a copy of Madden? Maybe. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that piracy is good or legal or even justified. But you can do it.
Sure.
You can do it, and it's interesting.
I will say, listen, I stole a shit ton of music when I was a kid. If I had a faster connection, I would have stole more movies. I certainly stole what I could based on my ability to get it, and I'm just fucking old, so like I couldn't do everything that I wanted to when I was a kid.
How do you feel
but
about that experience now, though? I think a lot of people have experiences stealing music or movies or TV shows.
I guess here's all I'd say is that my opinions on it change when I started making shit.
Sure.
And it's like, who said, "Oh, those poor corporations" earlier? Captain Fubar.
Right.
And like, I guess things are different when you feel closer to the idea of, oh, well, if this went well, I'd be closer to the kind of corporation that people would think could steal infinitely from than I am somebody who's just sitting around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
You're sticking it to the man, an abusive, invisible hand.
It's funny. I had a conversation with Darren Kitchen about this not too long ago because I've been listening. Oh, really? Do you listen to the Darknet Diaries?
No, I haven't, but I know Brian is really.
I know Brian loves it, so I've listened to a few of them, and there seems to be this thing in the hacking community of like the justifications for the actions. Like the hacking stories I love the most are the ones where like people are like, oh, okay, I'm just curious how this works. And you poke and prod, you poke your prod. Next thing you know, you've broke it in some fascinating way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to make the moral decision.
Do I share this? Who do I share this with?
Or no, do I take advantage of it? Right? It's like I loved an armored car and the design of an armored car. And I wonder how they riveted everything. And then you're like, tap and look. And then you're like, oh, I wonder if I wonder if they actually soldered this end down. And then you pull with like one fingernail and the entire side comes up and there's all the money inside. Mm-hmm. And now the question is, your curiosity has gotten you to a point where you have to make a very important moral decision about what you do.
And that's a very generous metaphor, right? Saying that you are solely curious, solely curiosity motivated, right? In a lot of cases, looking for exploits and 0 days and vulnerabilities is the goal. I'm not going to sit here and say that homebrew and custom firmware communities on specifically related to video games are not almost entirely piracy driven. They are. They absolutely are. 99.100% of that community on a level wants to do some amount of piracy. And this is not great justification for my curiosity about it. I certainly know that I did it because there would be games that I was not nearly as interested enough as the price tag demands that I be.
Yeah.
And I enjoy my Switch, and I've bought a lot of games for it. I've bought over a dozen games for it. I play it almost every day. Big games, little games, what have you. But I still went and I downloaded fucking Captain Toad Treasure Tracker and the new Sonic game that came out. There's a pinball game, Yoku's Island. I downloaded that. That's an indie game, and I said, $20, maybe a little too rich for my blood.
Because who would it hurt?
But it does hurt, right? I very specifically am, but look at it. I'm not some 16-year-old who has no money and has to ask the parents for the credit card. I'm an adult who makes a salary, who could and has bought many video games, many very cheap video games. I am the definition of a lost sale. And
I pray. So here, Kevin Fubar says again, we get to this question. Are they being hurt? Are you really sticking it to them? Would you have paid anything at all? Most of the times you pirate a game or a movie, they're games and movies that you wouldn't have paid for. Thus, there's no change in the money to the producers, content producers, distributors, etc. I feel like that argument, which I've heard my entire life, I'm not saying it is without merit, but I feel like morally you are shifting all of this off of yourself. Right. And ultimately, I think if you are going to take content without paying for it, I would respect you more if you said, no, morally, I don't believe these people should get money. Instead of saying,
no one's hurt by it.
When you really look at it, it's not money I would have spent anyway. And by the way, it's not like they're really losing anything and they're all doing fine no matter what. Mm-hmm. So how dare you cry for them? I think just be honest.
Yeah.
I'm somebody who feels that this isn't worth money.
And you know what? As someone who has grown up pirating games on probably 70 to 80% of any system that I've had, including the PC, I'm not going to sit here and say that I haven't done it. And I said this a minute ago. I am a lost sale. I probably would have bought Yoku's Island at some point. I do enjoy that I got to play it without buying it. And it's not an industry yet like music streaming is, where it is just more convenient to own access to Spotify than to download songs and keep a library. It's way more convenient to just pay them $10 a month and say, hey, have most of everything I want.
Make sure everything comes in. And in the case of Apple Music, every once in a while, they're going to get you some shit early.
Yeah. And so I don't think there's an equivalent there. I think if there were, or if there were more of them, we talked last time about subscription services kind of coming, potentially coming in on the horizon. But as someone who was young and had limited access to money and games, I pirated games because I could and because I want to try. And maybe those are probably not lost sales. But as someone who has, in various ways, tried to go legit as much as we can, I am more of a lost sale now than I ever was a decade ago.
See, here we go. Nick with a C.
Sure.
How many generic action, romance, drama films in Hollywood regurgitates every year that aren't worth the money? Man, stop putting it on them. This isn't about them. This is about you. Just be honest and say, I don't feel these are worth money. I'm stealing them because I feel that they're worthless.
And you know what the most popular thing, the most popular, pirated content is big budget, large, interesting national conversation shows and movies. Game of Thrones, highly pirated. For its entire lifespan is one of the most pirated pieces of content ever. And that's because it's really good.
Well, and look, I'm not going to get on, some motherfucker in Indonesia that's, not making but 12 cents for whatever. Like, I mean, that motherfucker wants a pirate. All right, look, whatever. I'm not going to get on that dude.
Right. And
fucking
especially
people in America. Oh.
Well, especially
look, it's a thing, but there's a lot of low cost options these days for almost everything that we do, up to and including those big budget movies that you might not think are worth something.
Right.
You want to see it right now because it's free and easy, and you feel like it's worthless. But I'm just saying, make that decision to say, I think this is worthless. I'm taking it for the price of zero.
Yeah. So this is me saying that I think I'm going to be stealing some Switch games, and I'm not really going to pay for them. And I will probably enjoy the games, probably less if I had actually purchased them, which is a very likely possibility. I'm also going to really enjoy the challenge and the technical puzzle that comes with it. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that figuring out how to crack this really difficult game is why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I want to play Taiko no Tatsujin. I'm doing it because I just want to play the game.
Yes, for free.
For free. This actually makes me think of Movie Pass and intentionally taking something that is a bad deal for somebody. But that's I think a conversation for another show.
Well, that's a fucking pyramid scheme. Like, it was a pyramid scheme from the jump. So.
Oh my goodness.
Not really. No, a pyramid scheme actually would make somebody money at some point.
Yeah, somebody would make money.
No, it was a burning pile of cash from the very beginning, and anybody who wanted to look at it like that fucking could. Look, I'm not saying WPR. Like, I'm saying APR. American people are richer than many people around the world. And if we're talking about shit on a global scale, then yes, by every available metric, American people have more disposable income than the vast majority of the population of the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Like, that's just a fact. So, I don't know. I don't want to get moralistic on the piracy more than I already have as a total blowhard. But
in any case, I got the hardware and it came in the other day, and I haven't had too much time to play with it. But I'm interested in it, and it gave me a lot of excitement when I thought I bricked my Switch. So
throw it in the trash, Bryce.
I'm actually
sit down the toilet like an alcoholic. Last bottle of bourbon.
So
come to the light. You make content for a living.
So if I share, there is definitely a white people rich portion of this story I have not told yet.
Yeah.
as Nintendo is trying to fight this, they're getting telemetry data from Switches that are accessing Nintendo servers and saying, okay, you are using this specific unique key for this game, and this game, we know this key is pirated because a million people are accessing our servers with it. Basically, if you're going online with this hacked firmware or with these hacked games, Nintendo knows and will shut you down. Will ban you. Will cut you off from online services. And I was really frustrated or worried about that because I like to play Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
That I thought, well, what if I just bought a piracy Switch? What if I just bought a Switch?
Yeah.
Just a burner Switch. Can you?
Yeah.
The fact that crossed my mind for a while, is maybe endemic of like a facelessness to the transaction. I'm putting $300 into video games, so I'm gonna get piracy out of it. Like I think maybe there's a haze there between where the money kind of goes on some level, on some abstract level. And so Killtop says, can you turn off online? You can, but even now we believe that Nintendo was able to tell when you access custom firmware or when you know, they're able to keep logs of that stuff, and they can tell when you delete logs. So that's that's a weird thing I'm willing to take. But I don't know. It's a thing. It's a thing.
I mean,
would you have a Switch? Would you pay the $50 to get this chip?
No.
I
mean, I have morally made a decision that that's just not something that I feel good about doing anymore.
Oh, really? Across all media?
Crosses,
music,
I
TV,
mean,
movies.
I'm sure that there are. I think the last time that I pirated anything was really into what was going to happen on a wrestling show, and like I was on West Coast time, and I didn't want to wait to watch it on West Coast time, so I downloaded it early off some torrent site. It was a random episode of Raw, like some shit that I paid for, but I felt like I really wanted to see it before I went to sleep or whatever, or I was gonna go to dinner or something like that, and so I really wanted to watch the Raw that people were talking about, and so I downloaded it. That's something I felt that I already paid for, and that was that, right?
Well, yeah, and that's you getting access to a thing you definitely paid for, and we're going to have access to almost immediately after.
And I didn't have Sling at the time, which gets the East Coast feed of stuff. So, like, if I would have had Sling, I would have watched it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, JV Phobic Jury, did you pay for Wirecast? No, but I got that through
the guy who made Wirecast.
Legal means. I got that through a gift from the creator.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I mean, I'm not saying that, but if I didn't have Wirecast, I'd use OBS. I wouldn't crack Wirecast.
Right.
Like I'm all for using market pressures to move people toward better solutions. I just feel like right now, for me at least, the market solutions are there. I can download things easily. It's usually at a fairly fair price, that I can get what I want. Like, it was different when all the music was DRM'd. It was different when fucking nobody sold movies
Digital
online.
versions,
It was different when you couldn't rent them and you were only able to buy the $25 download or whatever. Now, thankfully, the market has come to serve the online community in a way that I think is fair and just. So I want to hold up my end of the bargain and say, every time that I jumped up and down and said I'd stop piracy if all the blanks get filled.
Right. You're running out of excuses for that. Those excuses no longer exist.
Well, and again, like, I'm not really even against piracy. I'm just saying don't fucking confuse it morally. Just say, I think this is worthless and I'm taking it. Yeah. Like, that's what you are saying.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, so just be upfront about it.
And I think people will find personally acceptable areas in that. I don't like Assassin's Creed or Ubisoft. I had no qualms about getting a copy of their most recent game because I wasn't gonna buy it in the first place. I wasn't gonna like it or get involved or fall in love with it, but I did, and I spent a little bit of time with it. But you know, it's I did it because I knew, well, this has no value to me, and maybe there's some, you know, giving the finger to the French billionaires at Ubisoft, but in all, you know, that's not me saying you made this hard. This is me saying you made this thing I don't
JB
value.
Vobic has something that is very interesting. How do you feel about sharing streaming usernames and passwords? That I think is a more fuzzy situation. I've definitely lent my username and password out to many people. In general, I think I pay for all my streaming services. I don't think I have my mom's HBO Go anymore.
Right. In fact, my parents use my HBO and Netflix because those have family and simul-stream options built in.
Yeah, I think that there's an element of those platforms that encourage people sharing it. So it's like,
because they know it's better for the services if you group these people together.
yeah. So if that's the case, then that's that. I think the question comes in when you're deliberately fooling beyond their terms of service.
Man, and
talk about terms of service. I mean, oh.
But that also assumes that their terms of service are actionable or legal or right or what have you.
Tell me about it. No. You're really speaking my language. I mean, come on. I'm just saying. I mean, like we really need to investigate what these terms of service are because at the end of the day, I just went and I kicked off all of them because I can George Soros and go with.
Oh, right. That's clearly that's the sign that we've gone too long for video games.
By the way, I do feel that it is about ethics in video games, and that's very obvious when you look at.
Well, thank you, Justin, for doing this. We went a little long tonight. We're on video games with Tony B. Cassidy and Jury Aryan. We need to get you on the billing.
TBC and the Gerbs.
TBC and the Gerbs is very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to this episode of Video Games with TBC and the Gerbs.
Yeah.
Remember, play on. Is that a thing?
Yeah. Keep playing video games. Gamers.
You could use the controllers and immerse yourself in the virtual reality.
Crack your system. The corporations are holding you down. Free the content. Content wants to be free.
Hack the Pac-Man.
Hack the Pac. Dying a video game.
Dying a video game is very good. All right, we should
go. I'm leaving.
Okay.
I'm gonna hang up on you. I love you guys though.
Yeah, you guys are great. Have a good night, everybody. We will see you in the future.
Yeah. Bye.